Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day, and good you. Thank you for tuning in to yourself. Thank you for being here. I am Ade Anifowose, your guide, your host, your transformational guide. And I am so excited. I am so full of love, full of life, full of just yumminess. So I'm going to pace myself so I could do the things I need to do before I bring on my guests. Guests, welcome to another episode of Ade Presents Being You, the podcast. This is a journey back to yourself. And this is season 5. I've been doing this now, I don't know, 4 years. No, not 4 years, but I've been doing it for so long. Go Google it. I'm Googleable. You can find out. Just type my name. It's like, yeah, I'm one of those people. I'll be right at the top. And we've been having this conversation at least 3 years or so now, and being used an invitation to ask yourself, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself in the world? How do you see yourself? How do you see the world? How do you see yourself in the world? And how do you see the world in you? It's a journey back to you. These are questions we need to ask ourselves. And there's another question coming up soon. And it's all about the questions and how you allow the questions to take you deeper. I've got two beautiful people, soul sister, soul brother, and I was sharing with them. For me, I am emotional because as a member of Hillside International Truth Center, even though I'm not in Atlanta anymore, I'm still a member. I'm forever a member. I remember when I was at Hillside and I would listen to them when they came to speak and how they spoke to my heart. They spoke to my soul. At times where I was struggling financially, at times I was struggling in my relationship, and they would download the words that my heart needed to hear, and it would take me through the week. And I used to want to be like them. I used to say, when I grow up, I want to be like them. Baba Naim Akbar will start very slow. It takes you like a plane, just very slow. You acknowledge everybody in the room. And by the end, you're like, ooh, you're in the Concorde. It's like, I love the way he does it. My dear sister, Bertice Berry, she will come in. She will step to that podium and sing. And it just takes me deeper. And then she starts with the joke. And then while we're laughing, she dropped the truth in it. You wouldn't even know you just swallowed truth because you were too busy laughing. And then after a while, you're I feel different about myself. You start twitching. So anyway, they're both here today. I don't want to waste time. I want to bring them on. So let me just bring on Baba Naim Akbar, Dr. Naim Akbar. Thank you very much for joining me and for being here. And I want to bring on my dear sister, Dr. Bertice Berry. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the House of Love. How are you both
Thank
doing?
you. Thank you.
Delighted to
Thank
be
you.
here. So
Yes,
great.
yes. Woo. So I'm going to be, let me step into my Oprah self and just kind of like not get like, oh my God, it's so good to have you. But really, really, it's a blessing to share this space with you. And as we were saying before we started recording, my dear sister, you spoke this like this would happen.
Mm.
And I remember saying, well, because I've been kind of chipping at that idea. And then you spoke, and here we are a little over a year ago, and here we are today. And so thank you for hearing the word and speaking the word. Now, on Being You, the podcast, it's all about being you. And
Mm.
for me, there's something about names. There's something about words. And the name, our names is the word that's become flesh. And it directs and influences the choices we make, even when we don't know it. Even for those who think my name doesn't mean anything. Well, I beg to differ. The question I want to ask, and I'm going to start with Dr. Naim Akbar. What's the meaning of your name? What does it mean to you?
Uh, well, literally translated, Naim means blessing,
Mm,
and Akbar means great.
mm,
So I'm great blessing.
mm,
And I have labored with struggling back and forth to understand, does that mean I'm the recipient of great blessings?
mm,
And I certainly am. I am certainly just prosperous in terms of like receiving great blessings of all dimensions, from my children to my work, to my relationships, to my material existence on the planet, in just so many ways. I certainly have been the recipient of bountiful great blessings.
Mm.
But the other side of it becomes more tedious, and that means I have a responsibility to be a great blessing to others.
Mm.
And that's the work that I've had to try to do, to live up to that aspect of my name. So it is both a definition of who I am from a subjective side and who I am in terms of my objective responsibility.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Bertice Berry, what's the meaning of your name, or what does it mean to you?
Well, first, let me say that yes, Dr. Naim Akbar is a great blessing to me.
Absolutely.
My name, Bertice, is my mother is Beatrice, and Beatrice means gift from God, and Bertice is a gift from God.
Mm.
And I was actually named after a woman. I was named after Bertice Redding, who was a singer. And my middle name is another jazz singer's name. I'm named after jazz singers.
Mm.
And everybody that I've ever met with the name Bertice, they were all, when I met them almost 30 years ago, they were all in their 80s, and they all had been named after the same, they were all Black women, and they all had been named after the same French nun.
Mm.
And this woman had taught somewhere at a Black school and taught all these people who, and it was further back than that because they were named after her and they were in their 80s when I met them 30 years ago.
Mm.
So their mothers had been taught by this woman, and she had influenced them so much that they named their children after her.
Mm.
And so when I think about that, I don't need anybody named after me, but I want to have an impact that is at least 7 generations deep.
Mm.
So that we make a difference. Whatever we do, we make a difference that echoes like that.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just love it because both of you are literally doing what your name is about. You are making an impact every day. And it's like there's something about surrendering to who we are and listening to that guidance that, I mean, I don't know if I can put it in words, and I'm finding myself be not speechless, but wordless today, because both of you have touched. I know times that Dr. Naim, when you in the chat room when I'm doing my show, I have friends say, "Oh my God, I remember when he came to my university. I really loved it," and get excited. It's like I can't believe this. And Dr. Bertice, you do your stories every day, and even you and Fatima is just like amazing. You have us laughing, and it leaves me with questions. So you both are you're living it, you're living your legacy. And I think I don't
Well,
know if
I'm going to
anybody.
jump in. We talked about this a little before we started.
Mhm.
My life was framed by one question,
Mhm.
and it was.
Well, let me set it up like this because we're going to that question.
Go ahead.
So what I want to tell, because I need those of you that are watching and listening, however you're hearing this, we are going on a journey. Now, in order to go on that journey, you got to ask this question. And this question, which we're going to come to in a minute, this question is going to take you on a journey of consciousness. It's going to activate something in you as you to know who you are. And as you know thyself, you just might find yourself in this place called Black World. So we're going on a journey. I don't know what we're going to experience, but I know it's going to be good. So before you go on this journey, you must ask one question. Dr. Bertice, what's the question, please?
The question, and so we could call, if we had to name this podcast, it would be "We Love Dr. Naim Akbar."
Yes.
The question was put to me 42 years ago. by Dr. Akbar when he spoke with his young self then at Kent State University. I say it's about 40 years ago. He spoke at Kent State University, and he told us it was in Pan-African Studies. And he said, we must all ask ourselves the question, why me here now? And he talked about some of everything that day, but my whole head and heart could not leave that question. And the question became the framework for my life. Why me here now? Where not only do we look for this overarching purpose, but every moment becomes purposeful. Every second becomes purposeful. Why me here now? And then I couple it with the Arabic proverb that says, when a person seeks their purpose, the universe conspires to answer. And it is in that asking, why me here now? And the universe says, what? Was that Bertice? And then the answer starts coming. I was working on this crazy project that I just thought was crazy. And I said, I need to do it this way, but I don't know how to do it that way. And my former literary agent contacted me and said, hey, do you have anything like this? Because we want to do this. And I said, what? Yeah. And then she goes to the head of somebody at Random House and says, this is the thing. And I said, yeah, this is it. And then they spent the rest of the time telling me why they needed everything that I was telling them. So it's asking the question first that wakes up something within us. And then we allow, and I'm pretty sure you're the one that shared that proverb that day. When you seek your purpose, the universe will conspire. It will work against its own whatever to make sure that you see that. Because as Dr. Akbar pointed out that day, the psychological trauma that we live under requires a supernatural way out. We've been so pushed down by every system that exists. You can only live at this kind of cosmic level that says, not only do I believe, my ancestors believed me here. And so his why me here now, like I wish you could see the space that I'm in. It looks like that day. There's a gigantic sarcophagus in the corner that is actually a bookcase, and then all these canoptic jars, and then the marsh and the river, and then these woven crazy portraits, and then African sculptures and ancestral pieces. And because you begin to ask that why me here now, and everything that you seek, which is another thing you said that day, is seeking you. I mean, I wish I kept those notes, but I did. And that day I left there and I thought, oh, okay. And I seemed crazy to everybody who knew me because I had this way of seeing into a realm that nobody else could see. But Dr. Akbar unlocked it.
Yes, Black World. Yes.
You unlocked it. You unlocked it. And it is ever unfolding. Nothing became, like my mom called one day and said, you're going to have to take your sister's 3 children. Yes. Somebody called, we got 2 more kids that really need a home. Yes. Nothing was impossible because that why me here now wasn't just about me. It was about the future and it was about the ancestors. So yeah, and everywhere I go, I leave people with, do yourself a favor. Why me here now?
Ooh, Dr. Akbar, I mean, I'm definitely open to maybe you sharing what it's like to hear that, if that's where you want to go. And I also, the question that's coming up for me is, do you know when you downloaded that question? Do you know what was happening, or what was it like for you to have that experience to download it? And now that's causing a transformative ripple effect.
You know, one of the things that I realized very early is that that I could not afford, dare to take ownership, take responsibility for what comes through me. I really, uh, I really feel that I'm much more a medium than an actual effector. So it ain't my plan. It ain't it's not my strategy. But the blessing for me is that I have been able to serve as a medium for something that works through me. I used to, before I got old and partially senile, I used to be able to go at these places all over the world to make these speeches and with basically no preparation. I would have a little strip of paper with 2 or 3 little points on it. And I would stand there sometimes 2 hours, and this stuff would just be downloaded through me. And had no idea where it was coming from, but it flowed just like a fountain. It just flowed in a very continuous kind of way. And I think that the only time that I got into trouble was when I resisted that and tried to do something myself, and to try to write a speech or to try to do a preparation. And I knew it was kind of time for me to step back when I had began to, when I didn't have to, but I began to rely more on PowerPoints and these like extensive technological preparations of like setting up a stage of preparation. And there was no longer, and so I was doing it rather than serving my purpose to be a medium doing it, you know. And because I found that in these 7 some decades that I've been on the planet, that you know, we are here as that, really a medium for something to express through us, rather than for us to do what it is that we think we are supposed to do, you know. So so my purpose is to be a worthy medium, and I think that that's why I can't really take credit for it, and that's not false humility. That's just like the real deal. You know, I ain't doing it. It's coming through me, and I'm just blessed to be able to serve as a medium for that. Let me give you an example. You know, Brother Ade, and by the way, I'm just really very honored to be here, you know, with you, and of course my sister Bertice. I mean, we go back a long time, many decades, and I'm certainly just thrilled to be in your presence. But you know from our history that you invited me to be a part of your podcast early on, about 2 or 3 years ago. You sent me an email, and I told you, as I'm telling everybody these days, I'm retired. You know, I'm not available. You know, and because when I
was crunched. I was like, oh man.
and then you found out that I was telling the truth, because
right.
When I come to you, you couldn't find me anyplace else. You know? I received the same invitation from Bishop Jack when he had succeeded my dear friend Dr. Barbara Gaines, as you said. We were regulars at Hillside, but that was our hangout. You know, that was part of the itinerary. That was just like, that's what we were supposed to be. In fact, I think that both of us, Bertice and I both, had a regular day per month. Monthly, we were coming during a period of time. So the long and the short of it is that certainly that was a real shift from where I'd been. But I decided that when I retired from university, that I really was tired, and I wanted to like devote I wanted to declare, have a kind of a freedom to not be obligated to anybody but me, you know.
Mm.
And in doing so, I then would be available be available for my grandchildren the way I wasn't available for my children because I was so busily belonging to everybody else. So there were so many demands on my time, my presence, and everything else, which is I have no complaints about it because that was my work, you know. But I felt very clear it was all right for me to take a rest and retire. So I said no to you.
Mm.
I gradually began to put myself in positions of beginning to like sort of have these little squeaks out of my retreat when I began to listen to your podcast and through the chat room. So I wouldn't come on the show, but I would be there on a regular basis and would begin to like send my little message in. And interestingly enough, I got trapped the day that Dr. Bertice Berry was your guest, and I was in the chat, and I got so excited about the things she was saying that I started chatting more than she was talking. And it occurred to me, I think when she raised the possibility of us like being together, I said, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to do that. After that, but I told you that, look, I'm willing to try to do this, you know. And of course, you took a hiatus from doing the podcast directly. And so as soon as I guess that when I got word that he was starting again, I sent you the note and said, look, I want to be on there with her, you know. And then, of course, we preceded it by being back to back at Hillside in October. And so it was almost we were prepared for. My point is that this whole gathering today has been contrived and prepared. And we will sit here, and it's been coming for a long time, just as you said. I want to get confirmation for that. And I guess I'm saying that we all seem to be media. I guess that's the plural for medium. The plural of medium is.
Y'all are the doctors. I'll play dumb in this conversation.
I think that's a linguistic issue, a grammatical issue.
I was about to say, not in language.
Mediums. Mediums.
Another thing you said that day, all those years ago, that has rung so true, and I see other people doing it. It's, even what you're talking about, you research, you sit, you read, you write, you learn, you read, you write, you learn, and then you allow for whatever is coming to come through you because you've done the preparation. I don't know how many times I go into a place and people say, do you have your slides? What slides? I don't have any slides. And then they'll say, well, do you have any citations? And I say, I'm quoting me. Because Dr. Akbar said, I'm quoting my mama. I'm quoting me. That's who it's from. And that, I go into these spaces where I'm doing diversity work and I say, I've got to undo what two white boys with an MBA between them did because they may have meant well, but they had no understanding of human behavior and no understanding of history. And they created these programs based on things, how do you turn implicit bias into unconscious bias? How do you take people on a privilege walk, prepared to show them their privilege and entitlement when all you did was reify their stereotypes? But if you don't have an understanding of the history, which exists to some extent in books, but they've never bothered to read them, you can't have 3 lines of something and talk for 2.5 hours. You need a slide to guide you around. And God really is saying, I can use a donkey, but I can't use you because you haven't read anything. And so it is so wonderful to hear you say that because I find myself saying, I believe, but help me in my unbelief. When I know the truth, I read the end of the book. We're going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then you have to run back and tell people who call themselves woke
Mm.
that we're going to make it, but they're so busy being angry
Yes.
at what you went through, not them.
Mm. Mm.
And they're mad. We don't understand how come you're not angry.
Mhm.
What are you talking about? It ain't happening to you. If I can say, put down your shame
Mhm.
because I'm mad at you, how dare you be mad at me for not being mad at you?
Mm.
That's how much shame they carry.
Mm.
And so all those questions you put before us and then say, I'm quoting me.
Mm.
That liberty, that power, you may not take ownership of it, but I've cited you 1,001 times. and will continue. Someone wrote me back and they said they got one of your books and they have passed it out to all the young men. It was a white woman who worked with young men in foster care.
Mm.
And so she said, I can you tell me the name again? Can you spell his name for me? And I did. And she contacted me and said, there are answers for this that I couldn't answer, but he had the answers to. How come we don't know? And I said, I don't. You might want to go look at some old Cosby episodes. I don't know. Because what we did was we said, look over here.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, here it is. It's not coming from who you want it to come from. It's not coming in the way. Jesus is not attached to it. This is,
Mhm.
but it's the same wisdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
And it is just so absolutely powerful.
Mm.
And you may not take credit and you may not cite yourself, but I'm citing you and your mama.
Somebody said, "What did you say?" No, it's not what you think. I'm like you and your mama with a hand too. What? Oh, okay. Dr. Akbar. So you talked about your grandchildren. If they
Yes.
say grandpa or however they refer to you, say, I heard somebody citing you, Papa.
Baba.
Baba. Okay. Baba, I heard somebody say something about you that you had this question called why me here now? What does that mean? What would you say?
It depends which one of the grandchildren.
It's going to be age appropriate, right?
Be age appropriate, yeah. I guess I would say to them that that's what I say to you all the time when we are trying to make decisions about what you should do and want to do. That's why I say, I say that means why it is I say, put down the iPad and let's go play. We don't have to sit at the television to be entertained. Let's go outside and play. Because outside you can find out who and where you are, as opposed to having someone structure that and create a definition of who you are for you. But you have to answer that question for yourself. Now, so depending on the context, that's the way I would make it there and then for them, But it would be something to the effect to show the relationship between that question to everything else I ask of them. I have an older grandson who has a love-hate relationship with knowledge. He reads and consumes all kind of stuff, but he implements it through the false images of the the technical world. So it all becomes a part of a conspiracy that he is that's trying to unravel in this kind of new age kind of way. And so I have to somehow critique that to help him put that information that he's gotten into a reality context rather than to a paranoid delusion, because the society, the generation they're in, it's all been kind of let's say kind of coalesced into these strange images that are on TikTok and on Instagram and into this unreal, not the surreal world, but an unreal world, artificial intelligence, artificial reality. So he takes the real information and tries to juxtapose it into this unreal reality, this virtual world. That's the word, into the virtual world that they inviting people to be a part of. So I have to somehow critique that problem with him in order to bring him back to reality, so that he can begin to understand how to use the information that he has in order to answer that very critical question of who, why you, why here, why now.
So true, so true. I I often say to people, sometimes we can spend too much time trying to expose the lie that we don't make time to reveal the truth. And it's the truth that wants to come through when we get still, and just to allow ourselves to expand, to grow, to be more, to be different. And I want to kind of tie that in. We've talked about the virtual world, the surreal world, and I said we're going on a journey, and we want to end up in Black world. And I don't know if that's the place you can be in without knowing you're in there, but I think we're ready to like move up to the next level and kind of land on Black world.
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in Black world right now. And Black world is this corner in heaven where the living and the dead can converse. It's a novel, but it exists for me. When you said that, when I had to
let me just say this too, for those who are listening, it's a book that they can buy.
Yes. It is. And it's on Audible now, which is wonderful.
Nice.
So when you said the why, the me, the here, why me, why here, why now, and with your youngest grandchild, when I got my sister's children, the first three, we were living in Chicago, and it was cold one day. We went to the Children's Museum, and by the time we got inside and unwrapped and everything, they said it's closed, and because it's so cold. And so we got back in the car and drove down, went to the thingy to pay, and they said $10. And I said, we've only been in here 10 minutes. And they said, anything over 9 minutes is $10. And I said, why me here now? And we moved like in a month, and everywhere, and we lived from Chicago. We went from Chicago to Southern California. And we lived, the place we found had a nature preserve next to it. And every place we've lived has always had nature. And now, the place where I plan to be for quite some time it was the original allotment here in Georgia, the original 40 acres and a mule allotment. I don't have 40 acres, but I have some. And to see my granddaughters and other kids running around, the other day, we have to sometimes say to my granddaughter, don't go in the woods without us. She'll say, well, the bird was taking me in, and the this was taking me in. But it even where I have lived has been shaped by that question. And so I'm going to ask you in your I'm not doing nothing no more period to write a book called Why Me Here Now.
Okay.
That invites us into this, into an existence that goes beyond scratching and surviving,
Yes.
but
Yes.
allows us to, and it doesn't matter what level we're at economically, we are scratching and surviving.
Yes.
That allows us to ponder our lives and our day and our experiences. You know, I was saying earlier to Ade, I have a dear friend who you met many, many years ago from graduate school who has Alzheimer's, and her brother also has Alzheimer's, and her sister is caring for both of them. And so, you know, I had to get real with myself and say, yeah, it's difficult doing this, but her best years were those same years at Kent, listening to you and listen, you know. And so I'm holding her memories. And I can't afford to not use this time with her and her family, the why, the me, the here, the now. So it frames our days so differently. It frames our existence so that we're not spending 90% of the day worried about what somebody did to us and spending it creating, not refuting.
Yes.
That question is, I need that book. And you can start with, yeah, I downloaded one day, but I don't remember it. But it keeps coming back. And here's the way to see it, the way you can begin to see it. Because, you know, I mean, we're now telling people to go see a therapist, and the therapist doesn't know anything about us.
That's for sure.
Even when they look like us.
Really.
And they don't have anything. And for them to be board certified, they have to use what Freud said, and then what the people from him said, and the people from him said. And there is no school of thought. And I mean, you know, God bless him, but Alvin Toussaint said the same thing.
Yeah.
There's no school of thought that frames our existence in a way we can understand the why, me, here, now fully. We were scattered throughout the earth to change it.
Yeah.
But we forgot and we became like it.
Ooh. Okay, wait, you slipped that in. We were scattered. Say that again. We were scattered.
We were scattered throughout the earth to change it. And we forgot and we became it. Why me here now reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't here to drive whatever fancy. That's not, no, I'm here to change that. I'm here to give the humanity back to the people who enslaved me in the first place. I'm here to give back the humanity to the people I was shackled next to. I'm here to give back the humanity to the man who raped me. But if I'm fixated on what was done to me, I cannot change and undo the doers. So why me here now constantly reminds me that I'm a product of grace.
Yes. Yeah. You know, you quote at the in one of the chapters of one of your books, this quote by Willie James Jennings.
Yes.
And it says, "We are the people of resurrection, not death."
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I had to shout on that.
Yes.
I put the book down and very quietly do me a little holy dance because that just hit me, because that's what I have been like really kind of struggling with recently, especially that we really are preoccupied with death and dying.
Yes.
Right out, it has a lot to do, I think, with our religious miseducation.
Yes.
That we actually have been trained in a concept of Christianity, where the big triumph of Christianity is the resurrection. But the only thing you hear about is the crucifixion.
Conviction.
Over and over and over again.
A preoccupation with the crucifixion.
Yes.
And in the same way, we've internalized that as the way that we process our whole life experience.
Yes.
So we are really preoccupied with the agony of our misery and our suffering, and don't realize that the victory, the fact that we survived all that is the victory.
Yes.
And the fact that we are still here, still fine, still excited, still wonderful, still having, we're still the manifestation of grace in the flesh.
Yes.
We are the manifest, we are the living example of
Yes.
what grace is able to do. You know?
Yes.
And that we don't talk about that because we are so preoccupied with the day of the crucifixion.
Yeah.
We all got crosses around our necks, you know, and don't understand we got out the tomb. We actually went through death itself, and
Yes.
we come out of the tomb. And so I think that but that's consistent with exactly the thing you're saying, and that is so, and that was the really exciting thing, even in the book, that somehow we need to begin to find ways to kind of celebrate this resurrection, because I think that the more that we focus on the power that we have gained, the more we can begin to like really find that the real liberation, I think is quoted as well. Since you quoted me, I'm going to quote you back.
Dr. Akbar's going to quote you and your mama.
I'm going to quote you and your mama. But you made the point about the fact that liberation is in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
That the true liberation, if you want to get free, the course, the strategy, I think you said the greatest secret that's been kept is that freedom, liberation is really in the mind.
Yes.
So we got to free our minds from being preoccupied with the captivity. Now that doesn't mean I don't believe that I believe that it is necessary to confront and acknowledge the trauma. You know, you don't pretend that it didn't happen.
Right.
You don't pretend that, you know, so you got to acknowledge the fact that the crucifixion took place.
Right.
But you also have to understand that was just 3 hours out of eternity, you know.
Yes.
Everything else has been out the tomb and kicking butt ever since, you know.
Right.
And
there were plenty people crucified.
Yes.
One got up. Why are we still at the crucifixion?
At the crucifixion, you know. I mean, you claim that that's the victory that you are talking about, but nobody talks about it.
So I recently hosted a symposium on the slave Bible, and wonderful, wonderful people participated in it. It was amazing. And one of the things that we were able to piece together and see in this journey was, you know, they created this book that took out all references of freedom from bondage and any kind of reference to freedom and liberty. All that was removed.
And joy, right?
But all the joy was also taken out. All the Psalms were taken out. So the Psalms came up in the field. But then by the time it got to the United States, a man named Charles Colcott Jones, who lived right down the road in Midway, Georgia, and he was Presbyterian minister, and he creates this book, the religious instruction of the Negro. And so he creates these preaching stands, and they're first preached only by white people, and then they sanction somebody in there who's memorized enough of these passages. But they say, only give them short passages, only give them a little bit, only give them this much, only give them the part of the struggle. Make sure the heaven is in the by and by. Yes. Don't do anything beyond that. And those stands became centers, and those centers became churches that are still in existence today. They came from those same places with those same sanctioned preachers. And that letter that King wrote from a Birmingham jail was written to the great-great-grandson of Charles Colcott Jones, who was then the Episcopal bishop in Alabama. And so here's the great-great-grandson. And if you think that they're not passing the stuff on, then we're confused.
Yes.
And the other part of it is the grace that we got was also passed on. So one of the people that I had participate in this was this ethnomusicologist, this woman, Miss Dandy, who's a music minister at this Black Episcopal church. And she said, I don't care what you are, what you think you are, all our songs came from the fields. And so those songs that came up with that one little passage that they had, and then she pointed out that the pentatonic scale was the way we could frame our songs, because it was those 7 black keys, and we didn't play with the white keys. We just played with those black keys, and everything was in those 7 keys. And that was the way we were able to sing our Zion song in a strange land. And so that even without the full context of these scriptures, because you can't teach this piece and not teach that piece. Even without that, and Jennings is this brilliant theologian at Yale right now. He was at Duke Divinity, and then they left, a bunch of them left and went to Yale and Harvard. He's at Yale. And he teaches that the reason why we either hate or fully embrace this thing is that we don't know the full thing. And it's one of the, I had left church and said I wasn't going back to church. I was done with church. And I belong to an Episcopal church because the Coptic Bible has 88 books. The Episcopalians read from 86. Other folks got 66. The slave Bible had at most 14. And those weren't complete. And we're still living through those. You don't get full readings. And so one day I went to church and I said to my friend, you got to come with me because this place looks like Downton Abbey, but sounds like Malcolm X. And I'm like, I don't know why. And she said, I'm figuring it out. You know what they got a lot of? And I said, white people? And she said, no. And she said, they revere the ancestors.
Oh, okay.
And then one week she said, you know what's missing? And I said, black people? And she said, no. Sin. There's no talk of sin and degradation, and you ain't worthy, and you ain't never gonna be good enough. And I was like, Malcolm never lied. And this, when you get a Bible and it has the Apocrypha included in it, so you're reading this against this. You don't see, it doesn't stop at the cross and in the by and by we'll get there. No, we are constantly saying, as above, so below.
Yeah.
So again, this why me here now. I mean, somebody invited me to this church for 5 years. Every time she saw me, I was like, no, thank you. I'm done with it. I'm done. I've had enough. Love you.
Juicy.
Right. I'm done. And I went because there were 2 women trying to get me there. And the one, a rich white woman, was like, no, we got to do something to change the world. And I was like, why is she sounding like that? And it sounded like me. And so then I go and it's steeped into this reverence. I mean, we just had All Saints Day, and which coincides with All Souls Day. And they call out the names. Somebody, one day I posted the anniversary of my mother's passing. And somebody immediately emailed me from the church and said, why didn't you tell us this date before? We will call out her name on that date every year.
Wow.
What y'all? What? You say ancestors in a black church. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Listen, I have friends who are Nigerian who are telling me we don't have ancestors. We got Jesus. We got Jesus. I'm like, Jesus is an ancestor. He is.
He's an ancestor.
Yes. Yes.
It is amazing to find these portals and places where folks know. The other day I was in one of these classes and they said, oh, you know what you're talking about? I said, no, I don't. It came to me. And they said, well, you mean you haven't read The Cloud of Unknowing? And I said, no. They got a book called that? Yes. It was published in the 14th century, and then they started debating. No, it actually was out in the 5th century, but it wasn't. There's references of it in the 5th century, but it's actually it wasn't. It didn't come to print until the 15th century. I'm like, What? Can y'all just tell me what it is? And they said, the cloud of unknowing is contemplation and meditation away from what you think you know about God until you actually experience God.
Mm. Mm.
Huh? Okay. But that's like my mom said, pray till you believe.
Mm.
So this thing, the why me here now, is also a walk of faith where you look foreign and weird and strange to everybody looking at you. But the faith in knowing that the answer doesn't come from them, it comes in your personalized why me here now. While everybody's saying we need slides and we need images and we need, no, the greatest image is in your mind.
It is a PowerPoint.
No.
It is the PowerPoint.
PowerPoint. The power.
No, in fact, when I went back to Hillside, they said, which scriptures would you like us to put on the screen? I said, none of them, because that may not be the one that comes up for you. And I don't need to tell you what it is you need to take from this. And I trust that because I know you talked for at least 2 hours and I walked out going, why me here now? And that don't take 2 hours. We're wired for this if we trust it. So I'm looking for that book.
I'll have to decide if that's an assignment that I'm willing to take on.
Okay. But when you do, there's an agent who's looking for it as well.
Okay.
And a publisher who's looking for it as well.
Agent is where Freeman House.
It could be, listen, I wanted to have a huge distribution. I will make sure that everybody I know has it and everybody they know have it. And it will come, like I'll make the introduction to the literary agent who will make it happen, because I'll say everything that I've ever written came from this one question. And I've implored him, if you just put it into a recorder, I'll type it, but I can't type. If it's 60 questions, I'll make a book that has 300 pages out of it. That's a journal. It's a note thing. It's everything.
It seems to me you got the book already written. You should.
I don't have a psychological background, a psychology background.
Ade, you got me into this now.
I'm sorry I can't get you out. You're already in it. You're already in it. You said yes.
You are still here and brilliant and know more than you knew back then. So you can try. Let me tell you the way one of my childhood mentors told me when I was first diagnosed with MS. Do not get old before it's time.
Yes. Oh, it's not about old. It's about holding on to youth.
No. Don't get old before it's time.
I understand that.
You are not. You listen. The man in the White House is way older than you, and he's gonna be in there again.
Right.
We hope.
Right.
Our time is running down. And we covered.
You're just trying to get out of this, but you ain't getting out.
Right. Before you go, and this why me here now? When I think of Black World, that Dr. Bertice Berry, I mean, she said it's a novel. It's so much more than that. When I listen to it, it does things to my mind, to my spirit. It leaves me with questions. And sometimes I'm like, I think she's Rose, and then I think, and she's Aunt Bertha. I mean, it's just so many places that it takes me, and the little hints, little gems that they just because I listened to the other book too. It's like, it's just kind of like this. And if you were like, wait, what? Back it up, back it up. Whoa. And for me, those kind of conversation, that reality comes from the unknown. As you said, you're a medium for the unknown. And Dr. Bertice Berry just talked about the cloud of the unknowing. And I always said to people, when you have a direct experience with God, you ain't got time to be arguing with people who are telling you about what they read about a book. A direct experience will shift everything.
Yeah.
And in the world where there's so much that we know, one day I was contemplating something, and what I heard, a spirit voice said, humans live in a world of infinity, but yet they hold on to 10 things that they know as if that is the whole truth. But live in a world of infinity. And we're seeing it happen now showing up in so many ways, and we're just holding to this little 10 things that you live in a world of infinity. There's so much questions that haven't been asked. There's so many answers that wants to be revealed, and the ones who are willing to kind of like peek through the 10 things, let me see what 11 is. Oh, I don't know if there's an 11, but I'm going to look crazy if there's not. Maybe there's 12. Maybe there's more. Oh, and we go down this path. I believe, as you talked about, Dr. Berry, it's the idea of we're here to change the world. So my question for you both really is, how do we create space in ourselves to make room for the unknown so that we can be the medium of deeper wisdom and a new way of being?
I constantly I look to my mother, who struggled to care for 7 children on her own, who still found time, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon. If she was washing clothes, which she was a pro at, that was her hobby, was washing clothes, because she said she couldn't buy us anything new, but if she could keep us looking new with whatever she gave us. She loved washing laundry. She'd be down there with a can of Reading beer and a machine, a wringer washing machine that I caught my arm in. But you could hear her prayers through the heating ducts, because we had a coal stove, and you could hear her prayers coming up through them. And her prayers sounded like songs. And she was just being thankful for to us, it was like, well, we ain't got nothing. What is she thanking God for? So it's gratitude for who we are and who we be, and then remembering, right? You take a moment to remember. I would come in complaining about how somebody treated me in first class, and my mother would say, I know how you feel. I grew up next to the whipping post.
Talk about smackdown without trying to. It's like, oh, really? First class? Okay.
Right. So you like one day a check came through the mail, and I said, Mom, just open the envelope. What is it? She opened it, and she was crying. I said, why are you crying? And she said, you're making in a day more than I made in a year. And she said, I'm just so thankful. Look at how far God has brought us in my lifetime. And you with kids who are on the spectrum, you don't measure whether or not they're where you want them to be. You measure how far they've come.
Yes.
And so we take a moment every morning. My mother taught me, make your bed when your feet hit the floor and pray as you do it. Pray a prayer of gratitude, of thank you. You didn't sleep on the floor. You didn't, just thank you. So as I'm walking around my bed making it, I'm thanking God. And then, throughout the day, the Muslims have a call to prayer 11 times. And every time you hear church bell, That's a Christian call to prayer.
Mhm.
So it's taking a moment to say thank you. And then at night, or whenever you're learning something that stretches your mind, remember a time that somebody was thankful for you,
Yes.
because that will charge your cells in a way that nothing, I think, can. Let the gratitude that someone else has had for you being in their life reignite your why me here now.
So what I heard there before we go to Dr. Akbar is stay in constant communication with the unknown. In the words of George Washington Carver, whatever you love enough will reveal its secrets to you. So if we stay in communication with it, it will reveal secrets to us.
My granddaughter said to me the other morning, we were up early, it was still dark out, and the windows are cut in our house so we can see certain constellations, and we're out far enough. There's no light pollution anywhere. And so she looked up and said, "There's your mother. She's the red one, right?" And I said,
Wow.
"Yes, that's her."
How old is she?
She's just turned 8.
Wow.
But she knows those constellations. There's mom. And but and she's been that kind of special since she was 2. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to anybody. What are you doing talking to the stars? You don't?
Right. What you doing not talking to the stars?
Yeah.
I can only be repetitive because I think the whole idea, the two things, gratitude and consciousness, is what is my way of staying on the proper channels. So it's through prayer to be able to be grateful and understand that in gratitude, there's a constant reminder of the source. So in having a true gratitude of the heart, lets you know in the heart, what is the source of all that is of value. That's number one. And then the other one is the awareness, consciousness, being aware. And that's the thing about where your attention goes. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
That somehow fortifying that attention. So with those two forces being built through prayer, through meditation, through reading, through whatever I do, to be more grateful, to be more aware, that's the way I keep the Almighty continuously flowing through these ducts of who I am. I got to go get my due.
Thank you.
Part 2
you.
and a new book.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love and appreciate you both. Thank you for your yes. And trustfully, we can do this soon. Soon.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.
It's been wonderful. I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Right.
You're welcome. Thank you, my dear sister. Anything you want to say before we go, just to wrap it up?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting this together, for making it happen, for staying in tune. And just know that with all that's going on in your life and all the directions and all the different things and all things, it's going to change swiftly. So be ready to ride it when it does.
Yes. Thank you for walking with me, for guiding me, for nudging me. You prepared me for this time. You prepared me in your gentle, quiet ways. I didn't know. Now I know.
It's wonderful.
It is. Oh, your website for the book, right? People want to get it.
Yeah, freemanhousepublishing.org.
Okay, yes, they can get. And you got a new book coming out, Beauty Thieves.
Beauty Thieves is out in audio and digital.
Oh, it's out.
It is available in audio and digital.
Okay.
Yes, and also freemanhousepublishing.org.
And then maybe soon next time you and Dr. Naim Akbar come here, we'll be talking about Why Me Here Now book is
That's
out.
a book. That's a book. I'm
Yes.
telling you, he better write it, because if he don't,
I heard they are elves.
You know, like I know, I will come to his house and knock on his door.
Yeah. It's only down the road. The next
I will
state
be over
over.
there knocking.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.